Hey, good afternoon.
How's it going, everybody? Kent and I are here again today, talk about some great ideas and things. We've gotten through the contract. Unfortunately, we've also gotten word that they're changing the contract yet again. So next month, we'll probably have to go back and do some red line changes to what the contract had. A lot of it has to do with PIDs and different things like that.
Yeah.
So um, the normal everyday things will not change, but there are definitely some things also in there about home warranties. Trek is no longer overseeing home warranties, so that's be some interesting changes going into effect as well.
Oh, interesting. Hmm.
Today, what we're going to be going over, and what I think is huge, is we're going to be talking about the third-party financing addendum as well as the addendum regarding the appraisal. Both of them are very, very important to the contract, and I think the appraisal addendum is really confusing to a lot of agents out there. I've seen a ton of agents filling them out incorrectly. So we just want to give you some ideas and pointers on how to go through, fill it out, and how to understand it, and make sure you're explaining it to your clients correctly, because it's an extremely important form. It is actually the answer to the conventional side of the third-party financing, because third-party financing appraisal section only applies to FHA and VA loans. So if you have a conventional loan and you put a price in there, it's mute because it doesn't apply to conventional. So what it is this form actually solves the same issues that you have with FHA and VA, and also gives you some abilities for doing some waivers, some partial waivers as far as appraisal goes. So it's a huge form. There's a huge opportunity for it. Now, make sure if you're going to do some kind of waiver that you've talked to your lender and that they agree with the waiver or they will allow the waiver. Because a lot of times, as a listing agent, I'll actually call the other agents like, "Hey, are you cool with this waiver?" No. Oh, good to know.
Yeah.
But make sure your client, your lender, everyone's on the same page of what they're doing. So I'm going to switch over now. We're going to look at third-party financing form first. It's a little bit more in depth. From there, we'll check out the appraisal form. So Kent, can you see my page?
I absolutely can.
Awesome. So what we're going to be talking about right now is the third-party financing addendum form. As you can see, it has not been updated since 2019. Not a lot of changes to it, which is good. Section 1, we're talking about type of financing. Of course, you're going to put the address and the street address and the city there. Buyers shall apply promptly for all financing described below and make every reasonable effort to obtain approval for financing, including but not limited to furnishing all information and documents required by the buyer's lender. Check applicable boxes. A lot of times when the lender has delays, those delays are because the buyer has not given the documents needed from the buyer to the lender, and it's a very frustrating process. So you need to tell your client, listen, you got to, if they ask for something, you need to get it to them as soon as possible, because every delay you have will create a delay in financing.
Yeah, Andrew, my youngest is a loan officer, and I mean, that's her biggest thing is that if I can just get the documents, and because people, if what's interesting to me is probably because of people that are my age or older are like, well, why do they need that?
Oh, absolutely. And my dad, my worst client I've ever had is my father.
Right.
I mean, you would think he thought I was trying to have him killed.
Right.
What do you need to know that for? I don't need to know anything. I don't care. Get it to the lender. And it is. And lenders right now, and I'll say this, I can say this in a classroom because I spend all day fighting lenders. Lenders are kind of painted, and I don't use the word villain. I think scapegoat's a better word for what they are.
Yeah.
A lot of times, they're viewed as, we're just waiting on the lender, we're waiting on underwriting, we're waiting on this, when in reality, they don't have the forms they need to move forward. And I don't think they want to, throw their client under the bus, or they'll play the role of the scapegoat a little bit more than they should, and it could hurt them business for it. A lot of times, we help decide where loans go, and communication is key, just like anything else. As we say with realtors, it's true with lenders. If you got a lender and they're not answering your phone calls, it may be time to look for a new lender.
Yeah, and you don't have a lender that's going to tell you what needs to be done. I mean, because eventually it's going to come back, and you're going to get to the point in the contract, and we're going to pass the closing date, and they're all going to look at you.
Exactly. It's huge. And be honest. A great lender I had her on with Andrew one day, and we were talking about refinances. And I think the best thing she ever told me one time was, because I was like, well, let's look at a refinance. She's like, look, you can do it, so I'll make money on it. It's like, but it's not worth it with where you are right now. with what you've done, you will pay a lot of money to save $8 a month, and I don't think it's worth that for you. And to be willing to say that, I think is huge and goes a long way in what we do, and is why I give her name to a lot of people when they're looking to buy a home. But let's continue on. So we've got, of course, conventional, Texas veteran, FHA, VA, USDA, reverse mortgage. What kind of loan are we doing and how? Conventional loan, always remember, whatever loan you pick, you have to mark the box and then the box inside. So if it's conventional mortgage, you have to mark the A box, and then you're going to either do first mortgage loan in the principal amount of, this is the loan amount exceeding any finance, excluding any finance PMI premium. Do it full in. Is it a 15-year, 30-year, 40-year? How many years are we doing it? With an interest not to exceed, you got to put a number in there. 3%, 4%, whatever number you're going to do per annum for the first 10 years, 15 years, 30 years, however long the loan is. Of the original charges is shown on buyer's loan estimate for the loan not to exceed. Origination charges as shown on buyer's loan estimate not to exceed blank % of the loan. You need to get those numbers from the lender. So don't just fill in fake numbers that you think would be fun to put in.
And they're not always the same.
No, and you need to know. We hear so many oftentimes is, well, what are my closing costs going to be buying a house? I don't know what your lender is going to charge you. I can't tell you what they're going to be. I can give you an estimate of what the title policy costs are, but if your lender charges an origination fee and an appraisal fee and a doc prep fee and an underwriting fee, I don't know that. So you've got to get with the lender, and that's where it's so important to have a good approval letter from the lender saying, hey, they're approved. This is what they can do. This is what the costs are going to be.
And that's why you should always tell your clients to shop their money.
Absolutely. And you want to do, and the nice thing is, it's only a one hit on your credit score. If you do multiple at one time, they consider it shopping around. So if you go to 3 or 4 places, you're only going to get dinged once instead of 4 times because they realize you're probably shopping credit scores. Yeah. So you can do that. You're allowed to do that. I'm strongly recommend doing it. Yeah. Making sure you're figuring out which one's going to be the best deal for you, because you don't want to shop around 30 days into this loan. You're already set to close, and now we're going to start the process all over again.
The other thing I say is critical in this is when if I'm the listing agent and you turn this addendum into me, right, and I look at it and it says conventional. And then I call the lender, and she said, "Oh no, they're FHA."
Yeah, know what you're doing, and that you've got to understand, because the problem is you're violating the contract because you're not doing what you said you're doing already.
And it makes me concerned about how well the rest of the deal is going to go if you can't even hit this simple piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely. Now the second part of Section A is not seen as often as it used to be. We used to have a lot of 80-20, 80-15-5 loans. You definitely don't see them as much as you used to. If there was a second mortgage loan, you would put the same information in there in the second section. Texas veteran loans. A Texas veteran loan is usually accompanied with a VA loan where it's actually lowering the interest rate. So it's a great opportunity for veterans who are either enrolled in Texas or live in Texas, and there's a lot of rules. Remember, guys, this section of this contract, you are not the loan expert. You should not be giving advice and things here. You need to go take them to a loan officer, let the loan officer explain to them what is going to be the best options for them. Because if they can find a better deal and you didn't give it to them, it can come back on you. Your job is to fill this information in with the information provided from the loan officers through the pre-approval form. But do not sit there and tell them, I recommend you get this or that, or do this program or that program. You can tell them about programs and say, hey, ask about this, see if it works for you. Remember, stay in your lane. And I think the number one thing in real estate that will save a lot of people from getting in trouble is stay in your lane.
Well, the other thing too is when you're having a needs determination conversation with your buyers prior to ever even going out and looking at houses, you should have this document. Get this document and make sure that we get the lender involved. So because what happens, especially in this crazy market we're in right now, everything's going so fast. People are just filling out anything they can fill out to get an offer in, see if they can get accepted. Right? This needs to be right. And if you have that taken care of in the beginning before you ever start, it's going to put you ahead of the game.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, guys, go with what the lender tells you. Do not assume anything. Don't assume what the interest rates are going to be. Don't assume what the closing costs are going to be. Get that information from the lender and make sure it's filled out correctly.
And don't think that you can call Andrew or Kent at 10 o'clock on Friday night and we'll have that answer for you.
Yeah, because again,
No.
we don't know. I can't tell you what interest rate they're approved for. I can't tell you what fees they're going to have because they're not my fees.
Right.
I don't know their credit score. I'm not running your client's credit score at 10 o'clock at night saying, well, based on your credit score, you're going to get a 2.8% interest rate. I can't do that. It's not my role. It's not my lane. And I'm not going to get out of my lane. I'm not going to do what I tell you not to do, and that's get out of my lane.
Right. Exactly.
FHA, guys, we're the number of these are definitely less than they used to be in the current market, where we're wanting to see more conventional and cash deals. But FHA is still definitely there. You're going to mark the box that's in front of C if it is section. Now that's either going to be normally the two main FHAs I see is a 203B or a 203K. A 203B is the normal FHA loan that you're going to see 99% of the time. A 203K is when you're doing an FHA loan that actually has the ability to borrow money to fix the property up. Right. They're great loans. Again, in this market, they're hard to pull off because sellers are not willing to wait around. But great opportunity in this loan to, if the home needs refrigerated air, if it needs an updates, if it needs new appliances, it needs certain things, as long as the home can appraise with those upgrades to the loan amount, you can actually borrow the money in advance, pay for the loan, and get it all at the great interest rate that you're getting in the current market. So a 203K definitely is another opportunity for you in that regard. Again, the FA insured loan of not less than blank. This is going to be your loan amount, not including your MIP included. Authorized monthly for not less than, is it a 30-year, 10-year, 15-year, how many years are we doing? With an interest not to exceed, again, I would give yourself a little bit of a buffer there. If they're telling you it's 2.85%, you may want to put a 2.9 or 3, just so you have some buffer room in case the interest rate changes a little bit. Per annum for the first, again, 10, 15, 30 years, however many you're doing, with an interest rate, interest not to exceed blank per annum. And again, loan estimate for the loan not to exceed blank and closing costs. So again, it's going to work very simple, similar to conventional, but you got to know what kind of FHA loan is it going to be, a 203B.
I want to say something right there, Andrew, too, because I see this happen a lot, where you go in and you put the percentage of the loan amount. I mean, the interest rate. Okay, what'll happen is you'll throw a 5 in there just because you want to get the deal in and get it in place. Well, you just eliminated your buyer's opportunity to be able to terminate the contract based upon this document.
Well, if
they said thought it was going to be 3 and you put 5 and it comes in at 4.8 and they say we can't do that, that's a problem, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what you've got to have that conversation with your lenders in advance. D, huge in El Paso. We have a very large veteran community, a very large active military community. I think you got a pretty good base up there in Midlothian as well, don't you, Ken?
Yeah, absolutely.
VA guaranteed fee of not less than blank, excluding any finance VA funding fee. So again, it's just the loan amount, amortized monthly for not less than, again, 10, 15, 30 years. With interest rate not to exceed blank % per annum for the first, again, 10, 15, 30 years of the loan amount, with origination cost not more than blank % of the loan. You're just going to see 1-2% right in there. But again, get with your lender and find out what you're doing and how. And
here's something I'm going to say. I don't know how much it happens around your part of the country, but up here, I get agents coming in all the time, kind of really talking bad about VA loans. Right? I'm going to tell you, that's a big mistake. The owner of the house, if he's a veteran, that's going to offend him. I'm just going to tell you, because he's probably going to move and use a VA loan, or he has used one in the past. And you're like, well, VA loans are hard to get appraisals, and don't say that to people.
And the nice thing about a VA loan, where no one else gives you this opportunity, and I know Brian's in a class on this one time before as well, is the beautiful thing about a VA loan is it'll tell you, listen, I've got a Tidewater, I'm not meeting appraisal. Send me your comps. It is the only loan that's going to really is going to do that. So it gives you an opportunity to fight for comps before you get the number and the appraiser says, I've already given my appraisal, I'm done, I don't care. So the nice thing about a VA loan, if you're not going to make comps, they're going to let you know and give you an opportunity to send them your comps to see if they can fight for it.
Yeah. And the other thing you got to remember too is, and this has actually happened to me. I had a seller who was a veteran. We had multiple offers. The multiple offers came in. There was 3 of the 5 offers were actually better than one he chose. he chose the one that had a veteran's loan on it because that's who he wanted to sell his house to.
No, absolutely. You never know what's going to make someone want to choose someone or not, and be very careful. You start insulting anything or anybody, you never know who they're related to or who they know. I mean, El Paso's a community of over 900,000 people, and everybody still knows everybody.
Yeah,
it's amazing where oh yeah, I hate this restaurant. My sister owns that restaurant. Oh crap. It happens all the time. So definitely be careful. VA loans are fantastic loans. They're good loans. The only problem with a VA loan that I will openly say is it's 100% financing plus your financing VA funding fee. So the problem is if you plan on selling it within a year or two, the chances of you pulling that off without coming to the table with money are almost non-existent.
Right.
And that is important to make sure they understand as well. That they're not going to finance a VA funding fee and 100% loan and think they're getting out of it in a year or two.
Agreed.
USDA guaranteed financing, we don't see a lot of these in El Paso. These are really good loans for agricultural-based loans or loans in a low, a rural area. Or what's designated as one. So USDA loans are great. Again, I do not have a lot of experience with USDA loans personally. We can see some down along our upper valley areas or lower valley areas where there's still some farming and agriculture going on. Again, a guaranteed loan of not less than, again, the loan amount, amortized monthly for not less than, again, the number of years, interest rate. As you can see, there's a pattern. All these are pretty much done the same way. Reverse mortgage financing, are you going to pull money out of one home to pay for another one? Works a lot the same way. The difference with reverse financing, there's actually a box, will or will not be an FHA insured loan. So you have the opportunity there, and we'll let you know how it will play out.
Let me touch base on USDA because I've done tons of them.
Okay.
And so USDA, today's market's a little different. It's a little harder to get through, but in a normal, which, eventually this thing's going to level out the way it's supposed to. And we in Ellis County, it's amazing to me. The town I live in is Midlothian, and it's growing as fast as it can possibly grow. And it's big now, right? And we are still available to take USDA loans, which is unbelievable to me. But then the rest of the county is for sure able to take USDA loans. And so we've used them time and time again. And it's a good quality product for the right.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you can qualify for, if the property, let me rephrase, not you, if the property qualifies for a USDA loan, fantastic opportunities for you. Again, reverse mortgages, it's a whole, again, guys, don't tell your client which one's the best loan. Let the lender do that. And then you use the information for it. Paragraph 2, approval for the financing described above will be deemed to have been obtained with buyer approval and buyer approval or property approval are obtained. Performance time is of the essence for the paragraph. Strict compliance with the time for performance is required. Now we have 2 boxes here. Buyer approval. This contract is subject to buyer obtaining approval. If buyer cannot obtain approval, buyer may give written notice to seller within blank days after the effective date of this contract. Now, the contract will terminate, earnest money will be refunded to buyer. The number you put there is the number of days. So if you put 15 days and on the 20th day you say, hey, my client can't get financing, you don't have the right to cancel this contract because of that. You only had 15 days for approval. So you need to understand that this is both property and buyer approval.
So I got something to say there too. This is probably one of my biggest pet peeves, is that somewhere out there in the world of real estate, the instructors started teaching to put 21 days in there. And if you go back and look at least in our area, you go back and look, almost every contract you get says 21 days. So what that tells me is they hadn't really talked to their lender.
Right.
Because if I've got somebody that I've tried to get 5 houses on, we've been to underwriting where I can close this thing in 10 days, that makes that more attractive contract to me.
Right. I'm not going to put 21 days. If my lender says we're approved, we're good, all we need is an appraisal, that changes the game.
But then the other side of it is if I've got a guy that walked in yesterday and somebody's looked at his, social security number, and that's as far as they've gone, and I put 21 days in there and he doesn't turn the documents in like we were talking about earlier, and this thing goes out to 30 or 40 days. If I'm the listing agent and you ask me, you try to amend that number, I'm laughing at you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So be careful with that, guys. Talk to your lenders.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And then you've got the other box available in paragraph A. If buyer does his contract is not subject to buyer obtaining buyer approval. So if it's not a requirement, you're not going to put anything there. Property approval. This is a whole different game. If buyer's lender determines the property does not satisfy lender's underwriting requirements for the loan, including but not limited to appraisal, insurability, and lender required repairs, buyer not later than 3 days before closing of a written date may terminate this contract by giving seller notice of termination and a copy of a written statement from the lender setting forth the reasons for lender determination. If buyer terminates under this paragraph, the earnest money will be refunded to buyer. If buyer does not terminate under this paragraph, property approval is deemed to have been obtained. This is one of those dangerous ones where the property has to approve too for the lender to be able to take this deal on. Thoughts on this one, Kent?
Yes. So what happens is that, you will come through and something will go wrong in their life and, they decide not to do it. And we try to use this as the lender would not approve them. There's a new statement in there since they've changed the contract that says has to be written documentation from the lender stating that. Okay. Remember that. That's a piece of it. If you don't have that, then they don't have the right to terminate due to this clause.
No, absolutely. And it's one of those, I mean, these contracts are written to where there's a lot of reasons to be able to get out of them. So, right. I mean, make sure you never tell your client this is an ironclad contract and you're guaranteed anything. Security, each note for the financing described above must be secured by vendors and deed of trust liens. FHA required provision. Now, again, this is FHA and VA only. So if you've got a conventional loan and you put a number here on paragraph 4, it means nothing. If the financing described above involves FHA insured or VA financing, it's expressly agreed that notwithstanding any other provisions of this contract, the purchaser's buyer shall not be obligated to complete the purchase of the property described herein or to incur any penalty by forfeiture or earnest money deposits or otherwise statements issued by the Federal Housing Commissioner, Department of Veterans Affairs, or direct endorsement letters setting forth the appraisal value of the property of not less than blank dollars. Normally, again, you're going to put the sales price in there as the appraisal value. If it does not appraise, you do not have to buy the property. This is kind of the get out of jail free card for FHA VA saying it's got to appraise. If the contract purchase price or cost exceeds the reasonable determination, reasonable value of the property established by the Department of Veterans Affairs, the 3-day notice of termination requirements in 2B does not apply in this paragraph. Buyer shall have the privilege and option of proceeding with consumption of the contract without regard to the amount of the appraised value of the reasonable value established by the Department of Veterans Affairs. What that's saying very clearly is, listen, even though they don't have to buy it anymore, they still can if they put their own money up for the
sure.
They're not going to say, so someone comes in and says, well, it's a VA loan, they can't pay more. That's absolutely not true. I can pay whatever I want. VA is not going to pay more than appraisal value.
Correct.
If FHA financing is involved, the appraised valuation is arrived at to determine the maximum mortgage the Department of Housing and Urban Development will insure. HUD does not warrant the value of the condition of the property. The buyer should satisfy himself or herself that the price of the condition of the property are acceptable. Again, just saying, hey, we're not reviewing this house. You need to go make sure it looks good and you're happy with it. If VA financing is involved and if the buyer elects to complete the purchase at an amount in excess of the reasonable value established by VA, buyer shall pay such excess amount in cash from the source which buyer agrees to disclose to the VA, which buyer represents, will not be borrowed from except as approved by VA. Mm-hmm. If VA reasonable value of the property is less than the sales price, seller may reduce the sales price to an amount equal to the VA reasonable value, and the sale will be closed at the lower sales price with proportionate adjustments to the down payment and the loan amount. So what it's saying is we have 3 options. If it doesn't appraise, I lower the sales price to the appraised value, we walk away, or the buyer brings a cash equivalent. Those are our options. So making sure you understand it. So if anyone comes up to you and says, hey, I can't pay more because it's VA, that's absolutely not true. Mm-hmm. Paragraph 5, authorization to release information. Buyer authorizes buyer's lender to furnish to seller or buyer or their representatives information relating to the status of the approval for financing, and seller and buyer authorize buyer's lender, title company, and escrow agent to disclose and furnish a copy of closing disclosure and settlement statements provided in relation to the closing of the sale to the parties' respective brokers and sales agents provided under broker information. Just giving authorization to release information so that they have it. Buyer signs, seller signs, we're good to go.
That's why in the contract, that's why we go ahead and put the people's information there, because they're giving them the right to contact them.
Exactly.
You don't get to not give people the right to contact. They're your partners. You need to give them the right. And that's what this does.
Yes, absolutely. Now, if we go, so this is the third-party financing edition. If you are getting a loan, addendum, I'm sorry. If you are getting a loan from a third party, you better have this addendum included in this contract, and marked it appropriately in the 1 to 4 family contract. Now we're going to talk about the addendum concerning right to terminate due to lender's appraisal. This form came into effect in November 2018, and people still haven't really wrapped their heads around how to use this form. So we want to make sure people understand it. Again, you're going to put the street address and the city at the top. We have 3 options in this contract, and that's kind of the nice thing about this contract. This form is for conventional loans. It says it very clearly. Use only if the third-party financing addendum is attached to the contract and the transaction does not involve FHA insured or VA guaranteed financing. So if it's an FHA or VA loan, you do not use this form. It says it right there at the very top of this page. So if you have a VA loan and use this form, I'm going to laugh at you. Don't do it.
Yeah.
The financing described in the third-party financing addendum attached to the contract for the sale of the above referenced property does not involve FHA or VA financing. So it says it twice in this contract. Before you do anything, do not use it with an FHA or VA financing. So please, please, please understand that. Now, again, we have 3 choices when we're doing this. This is giving us a chance to either waive the appraisal, partially waive appraisal, or have the same requirements as the FHA or VA loan. So box 1, and you're going to check one of the boxes. Buyer waives the buyer's right to terminate the contract under paragraph 2B of the third-party financing addendum if property approval is not obtained because the opinion of value in the appraisal does not satisfy lender's underwriting requirements. If the lender reduces the amount of the loan due to the opinion of value, the cash portion of sales price is increased by the amount of the loan and is reduced due to the appraisal. Now, paragraph 1 is a guaranteed, hey, listen, I'm offering $250,000. No matter what it appraises for, I'm paying you $250,000.
Right.
If it appraises at $240,000, I'm going to pay you $10,000. If it raises at $190,000, I'm going to pay you $60,000. I'm guaranteeing a full and total waiver. Paragraph 2 is a partial waiver. Right. Buyer waives buyer's right to terminate the contract under paragraph 2B of the third-party financing addendum if property approval is not obtained because the opinion of value of the appraisal does not satisfy lender's underwriting requirements and the opinion of value is blank or more. This is setting a floor, okay? So it's saying, listen, as long as it appraises for at least, and we'll use the number 235, I'll pay the difference up to 250.
Right.
But it's setting a floor. Please, for the love of God, and I've seen it so many times, don't put $15,000 there. Because what you're saying is, as long as this home appraises for $15,000, yeah, I will buy this house.
Well, and people get confused. They think they're supposed to put how much money over they're willing to pay.
And that's where I see that $15,000 come into play.
Right. Right.
And that's why what you do, if you say, listen, I'm willing to pay up to $15,000, then you're going to put, if it's a $250,000 deal, $235,000 there, because that's going to where the $15,000 will play out. Wow. So make sure you understand that the partial waiver is fantastic, but what the difference between 1 and 2 is only 2 is setting I will do it up to a certain amount. Right. If this thing appraises for $50,000 under, I'm not coming to the table $50,000. Wow. I'll come to the table $15,000 if I need to, or it sets that barrier for you in that regard. Exactly. So great opportunity. Now, paragraph 3 is giving you the same rights that the VA and FHA have in the 1 to 4 family. So if we're going to use paragraph 3, it's going to say additional right to terminate. In addition to buyer's right to terminate under paragraph 2B of the third-party financing addendum, buyer may terminate this contract within blank days after the effective date if the appraised value according to the appraisal obtained by buyer's lender is less than blank and buyer delivers a copy of the appraisal to the seller. If buyer terminates under this paragraph, the earnest money will be refunded to the buyer. So again, this is going to, if you are not doing the waiver, this is where you have the right to put the sales price in paragraph 3 saying, listen, I have the right to terminate if it does not appraise. And this is giving you the same rights that the VA and FHA loans have. Buyer signs, seller signs, everybody agrees. So you're going to check 1, 2, or 3. 1 is a total waiver of appraisal. 2 is a partial waiver where I'm going to pay a portion as long as it appraises for a certain amount. And 3 is saying, listen, I want to make sure it appraises. Questions or thoughts?
Yeah. So my first off is you made a very great statement at the beginning, is that it tells you twice before you ever get to checking the box. So that it's so simple, guys. Don't ask anybody to sign anything you haven't already read. Okay. Just please read the documents, right? And then if you don't understand it, don't assume that don't guess. Pick the phone up, call your broker or your mentor or whoever you're working with, and let them help you go through this and make sure it's right. You may not see one of these for another 3 months, and a 20-minute conversation with Andrew and I that you're gonna go, he said something about that. I mean, don't ever not utilize the resources that are around you to help you make these things right. It's critical that you do that, in my personal opinion. So this waiver came into effect because agents were writing things in paragraph 11, special provisions, that were considered escalation clauses, so that, and that's practicing law. And we can't do that. So that's why this form came into place. I think it's important you understand why it's here and why it wasn't on the original contract. That I can't answer, but that's why it's here, is because too many agents were trying to practice law and put stuff into special provisions of the contract. And so luckily the lawyers committee came up with this for us and gave us a way to at least unify it throughout the whole TREC organization. So, use it, guys. I know people, if people are not accepting your contracts because you have this form attached, that's a problem. And so that's another thing you need to let your broker know. And that has happened. I've seen it happen a lot. So that's my 2 cents, brother.
And mine, guys, these forms are just drastically important. And make sure you fill out them correctly. Like I said, if you do that partial lease and you put it 10,000, 15,000, 5,000, you are given a full-on waiver for your client. And make sure you're not doing that, because that's terrifying. So
right.
But with that, that's the document portion today. And now we're going to make sure Kent teaches you how to make some money.
All right. So appreciate that. That was a great conversation, by the way. I really enjoyed that. I love those kind of conversations, because even Andrew and I will have a different perspective on them.
Oh, absolutely. I did it too with Andrew a while back, and Kent called me afterwards. He's like, "Hey, what about this?" Like, oh my God, I've never even thought of that. That's a good point.
Yeah. We all have different perspectives, and that's okay. But the key to these things really is you got to remember who's ultimately responsible for the contract that you write, and that's whoever your broker is. So, if you're not getting advice from them, we'll give you all the advice we have and know, but if they tell you something different, they're responsible for you.
It's hilarious. Sometimes I've had agents leave my office and go somewhere else for different reasons, and they'll call me like, "Hey, what do you do?" I was like, "I can't. I can tell you what I would tell you to do. I can't." So, well, then I answer my call. I don't know what to tell you, man. I was like, I can tell you what I would tell you to do, but that's not going to do anything.
I answered your call. Right.
We learned a lesson. But it's just because I say as a broker, that's what I say you should do. And I tell people all the time, if I've told you to do something and it goes bad, then I go in front of TREC and say I screwed up.
Right.
If you do something on your own, we're both going to TREC and figuring out what we got to do.
Well, and too, if you follow just kind of the guidelines that we lay out here, talk to the lender, make sure you know everything. God, there's a reason they call you a real estate professional. You're not an order taker. You're not a clerk at the front of the store. You're a real estate professional. So you need to bring that professionalism to the table, right? And so that brings me back to kind of where I wanted to be to go down this road. So I'm going to segue into the next thing. All right. So I'll tell you a little story. I like to tell stories. I think we learn a little bit from that. So when I was 24 years old, I went to my very first sales training course. It was called the Dale Carnegie course. Okay. And Dale Carnegie was about the first guy out there really there were several guys selling motivational stuff, but he was one of the first ones that were actually physically putting people in a room and training them on sales and how to mentally be prepared to be a salesperson. Right. So we're going through this, and I'm young, I'm full of vigor, and, I think I know everything. Right. And so they assign everybody, or they did at that time, they assigned everybody a mentor from the class. And so my mentor came to me one day and said, "Kent, I'm going to give you this book." And so if y'all want to screenshot that, let me get it where you can see it better. Skill with People, by a gentleman by the name of Les Giblin. Okay. This book was, now I want to see, it's not like the Bible. Okay. It's, this is footnotes to How to Win Friends and Influence People is what it is. Cliff notes. Okay. That's what it is. So this book was given to me when I was 24 years old. And what this gentleman said to me, he said, Kent, if you'll read this book once a month, every month for the rest of your life, you'll never have a problem dealing with people. I was like, wow. Okay. And I'm like, I'm 24. I'm like, yeah, well, yeah, kind of whatever, but luckily that's one guy I listen to. So I've read, now I can speed read it so fast. It takes me like 10 minutes to go through it, but when I first got it, I read it and read it and read it and read it. And I found out what I love about, and I read a lot of books, but what I love about books like this is it tells you situations and how to handle it. It doesn't make you try to think how to do it. It's like, if this happens, do this, if this happens, do that. Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense, right? Because, when you grow up in rural Texas like I did, you need things to stay simple for you, right? So that you understand. So he gives me that book. I listen to him. I read it. I highly recommend you do that. To finish the story, though, so my oldest daughter, who's now a rock star real estate agent here in Ellis County, when she graduated college, I walked up to her and guess what? I had a copy of Skill with People by Les Giblin. And I handed her this book and I said exactly what was said to me. If you'll read this book once a month, every month for the rest of your life, you'll never have a problem dealing with people. She took the book and rolled her eyes and, went on down the road, right? About 2 weeks later, she comes walking in the door and she's got this book in her hand and she got this look on her face. Like, I'm like, what is wrong? She said, you've been doing this to me my whole life, haven't you? I'm like, absolutely. So guys, it's one of those things that if you'll take the time to do it, it makes all the difference in the world. You can download it from Amazon for like less than $6. I always have a or a paperback copy of it, but of course I got it on all my devices. I can just go in and read pieces of it whenever I want to. So highly recommend that you take part of that. All right. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how to stay in contact with the people. We've talked about building a database. We talked about putting a database in place. We've talked about prioritizing the database. So one of the things I wanted to touch on really quick there is that I think sometimes, and I know it's happened, I've been guilty of it, is when I use the word database, we all think of sphere of influence. All right. Well, that's just not the case. If you have had contact with someone and they know that you're a real estate agent, whether that lead came from the internet, came off of a sign call in your office, however it got to you, right? And they know that you're a real estate agent. They are now qualified to be part of your database. Now, remember, we got to prioritize them. They may be at the lowest end of the database, but they're now part of your database. Right? So that's how you build and grow a database. So just remember, it's not just the people, this is how you have to respond to everybody. So when you get them in there, staying in contact with those people are important. So for the next 3 weeks, we're going to talk about, today we're going to talk about contact. Then we'll talk about care of your database, how you take care of it, how you, because it's kind of a living, breathing thing. You got to take care of it on a regular basis. It needs to be nurtured. It's kind of like a baby, it can't go do it for itself. You have to go in there and help. Right. All right. So as you do that, and then the third thing we'll talk about is how did we create that database into a community, which is what will drive referrals to ultimately to you. Okay. So, I think you guys have learned enough about me now that when I get up in the morning, I wake up with intention. Okay. And every day, part of my intention is to increase and care in the community of my database. That's incredibly important. All right. So, so how do we care for it? All right. So consistent contact, scheduled to be sent with information that makes it valuable. Okay. All right. So if you'll hear me use this term, and I'll talk to new agents all the time that they go, well, Ken, how do I become a successful real estate agent? And I always tell them it's simple. It's consistent, persistent over time. Okay. You can't expect to send somebody one postcard and then buy $1 million property. Okay. That's not how it works. It's persistent, consistent over time. All right. So that's the first thing we got to do. So how do we do that? Right. Well, I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about kind of the differences and I've had lots of talks with Andrew and lots of talks with Brian and Nick and other guys around the country on how do you contact and stay in constant contact with your database that's different than maybe how I did. Because I focus a lot on sphere of influence, right? And that was good for me. But then I look at what Brian's done, and Brian's got an amazing presence in El Paso because he's a marketing genius, right? All right. So I was thinking about that. So one of the very first things that I always tell people to do is you need to send out on the first day of the month. You need to send out something that you would consider an item of value. Okay, something that's valuable. Not so much, hey, you want to sell your house. More like winter's coming on. Here's the different fertilizers and things you should use to take care of your yard. I mean, it's simple little information that just gives them something to make their most valuable asset more valuable to them. Okay, that's what we call an item of value. Now, I've always done that directly as a mail piece, right? I put it in the mail. I actually, be honest with you, my other favorite saying is, lead generation will make you wealthy and everything else is worth $10 an hour, right? So I'd always hire somebody to handwrite all those notes for me. And I'd normally just stay with my top 100 people in my database like we did, like we were talking about last year, our 80-20 rule, right? So I sent something to mail, but I was thinking about it and I'm like, I bet, and I haven't had this conversation with him yet, but I'm going to it sometime before we get back together next week with Brian and say, my gut feeling is that you're mailing something somewhere every month, maybe every week, right? I just have this gut about him that something goes out, whether it's a postcard or something, right? Right. So if we know what that is, we can utilize that exactly the same as we would our item of value. Because think about it. That first piece of contact is that information we send out. Now, what that does is sets us up for our next piece of contact, which is the phone call. All right. Now, if somebody's in my database and I don't want to call them on the phone, maybe they don't belong in my database. You know what I mean? So we'll put them in there. So the item of value gives me the reason. Hey, Andrew, did you get that information I sent you on taking care of your lawn during the winter? Yeah, he says yes, no, maybe. I don't care what he says, but it gives me a reason to make the phone call. Oh, no, I haven't got that yet. Well, great. Be looking for it. There's some really good information that's really done well for my lawn over the last few years. Okay. So now I had a reason to contact him, and he's not sitting there with his hand on his wallet going, well, Kent's going to ask me if I want to sell this house again. Yeah, that's the last thing that I want him to pop into his mind. What I want him to do is, because I've constantly stayed in contact persistently and consistently over time with him, to go, anytime he hears somebody say, I want to sell a house, he'll refer them to me. Now, if he does decide to sell his house, I would really like him to do it with me. but that's not the intention of my call. The intention of my call is to help him help me create a bigger database every day. Okay. Right.
Well, and like you said, you don't want him to sell his house yet. You want him to find people who want to sell their house.
I want 5-6 referrals from him. If I can get 5 referrals from Andrew, I'm gonna close 2 or 3 of them. Right? Yeah, and then he looks good, because when he comes back and his friends go, man, I love working with that guy Ken. He was awesome. So you got to be awesome. Let's make that clear. But then it just makes him feel good, and guess what? He'll do again. He'll do it again. Right. Right.
Everybody loves having a guy.
Yeah. So, and we'll talk a little bit about care of that guy, because if he sends me a referral, he's getting rewarded right there on the spot. I don't care if it closes. I don't care what happens. He's getting something. He's getting a $5 Starbucks gift card. He's getting something, right? Because that's another way that I maintain and take care of my database, right? So I got to make the call, and the call's simple. I mean, you don't even really have to get a great dialogue, guys. The call's simple. Hey, Andrew, did you get the information I sent you about taking care of your lawn during the winter? All right. I mean, and he'll say yes, Norma. Say, well, great. If he doesn't, if he says no, you just go, well, you're going to love it. I've been using it. Worked really well for me. Right. If he says, yeah, I got it. Yeah, that's pretty good. And whether you did or didn't, it's like, he'll do that. I'll say, well, great, man. I hope that really helps you out a little bit, and is there anything I can do to make your life better? Right. And he said, oh, no, Ken, everything's good. Right. Say, great. Hey, always remember, if you hear anybody who's looking to buy or sell real estate, I'm never too busy for your referral. Okay? Now I've made a phone call, and that phone call now has body to it, has a reason to happen, right? Because I didn't ask him to sell his house. I just said, hey, if you ever hear anybody, man, I'm never too busy for your referral. Okay. And you got to do that at the end. If you don't ask for the referral, it's not really a marketing phone call. It's just a phone call. All right. So we're going to send them the item of value. Okay. After that, we're going to make the phone call. All right. And we're going to track all this. Who got it? What happened? What happened when I made the phone call? What did they say back to me? You're going to track all of you got access to a CRM somewhere. Okay. I mean, worst case scenario, I know you got Excel. So that would be the worst case scenario, but you at least have it, right? So you got to track this stuff and see what's going on with it, because that's how you're going to keep prioritizing your people. If I call Andrew for 2 years and in 2 years he hadn't sent me a stinking referral one, right? He may not be one of my A clients, right? I need to replace him with somebody that will send me referrals, right? Okay. So these are simple sales techniques, guys. Simple. This is what we do. Right. So I've sent out the item of value around the first of the month. Right. Then I've started working my list through phone call. Now I'm talking about, I know everybody does it different. I'm going to tell you what I did. Don't take anything if your broker or your manager or your team leader is saying something else. That's what you do. But my goal was to get through my top 100. Okay. In the month, I want to get to everybody. I want to at least have a phone call with my top 100. Now, everybody was getting other information, but I at least wanted to have phone calls with those guys. So I would knock out 5 phone calls a day, 5 phone calls a day, 5 days a week, 4 weeks in a month, 100. Math's easy, right? And so that's how I made sure that I did. I never was the guy that could sit in a room and make 100 phone calls in a day. That just drove me insane. Right. And I tried. When I first got started selling, I tried like everybody else. That's why I was always looking for a little more systematic approach to do things, and that's where we kind of fell into this. So I've sent out my item of value. I've started making my phone calls throughout the month to try to get it there, and I want to do it once a month, every month. Okay. Now you think about it. If I call you, Andrew, one time a month, and sometimes you'll answer, sometimes you won't. I'll drop you a little voicemail, or send you a follow-up text behind that says, hope everything's well. I'm here if you ever need me. I'm never too busy for your referral. Boom, right? So I want to make that contact with him. So now think about it. I've sent him something in the mail, and I've now made a phone call. So I've contacted him twice. Okay. On the 15th of the month, I'm going to send out what we call or refer to as an e-report. The e-report could be just about anything. Everybody wants to know what's going on in real estate in their market, right? You can send out just, the statistics of the town you're in, of the neighborhood that you work. You can get all that data. All that data is available. It's out there on MLS. May take you 20, 30 minutes to put it together. But once you put it together, you can send it to your entire database. So you're going to send out what we call an e-report. And I don't care if you got 20 people in your database or you got 3,000 people in your database. It's an email. Okay. Send them the email with the report in it. Make sure that you have a tagline that they get used to seeing. Mine's always been simple. It's always been the month. So it's been, this month's Ellis County real estate statistics. Right. And so it's amazing to me who opens that thing up. I mean, it's nuts, man. So come up with whatever tagline, but make it simple, make it to the point. All right. So now we're going to send that e-report. We're going to say on the 15th of the month, you ought to be able to go in there and just hit a button. Most of your CRMs will send emails for you. They may have a limited amount, so make sure you check that, but most of them will send an email for you. If not, Brian will teach y'all how to do something on Google to be able to send all your emails. I either ask Brian or my daughters, because I don't know. But they always figured it out for me, right? Okay, so we're going to do that. We're going to send that e-report, all right? And then once we've gone in there, we sent the item of value, made the phone call, and we sent the e-report. One of the things I kind of got a little out of order on that. Right after I make that phone call, I'm going to reach down. I'm going to grab just a nice little handwritten note. I'm not trying to be Florence Nightingale and get everybody motivated. All I'm doing is just handwriting a note. I always make the note, make sure that the note I have these little stickers that say I'm never too busy for your referral. I get them from Buffini and Company, but you can get any little print shop in the world to make them for you. I keep them right here on my desk with me all the time, right? So I put, I'm never too busy for your referral. I put my business card in there. Okay. I always put my business card in there. They're the cheapest things. And I don't care if they throw it away when they get there every time. I want them to see it. It's the cheapest form of advertisement you'll ever do. All right. And then I'm just going to write something simple to them. Hey, Andrew, you know, it's great talking to you. Yeah. Congratulations on your son being the top football player in El Paso County, which I think that actually happened. And, you know, and so I can put that in. And so that makes him feel good, right? You know, whoever got a card that said something nice about you and went, crap. See, here's what you do. I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to get on my soapbox right now, okay? Because I love that soapbox. So this right here, this card that cost me maybe 3 to 5 minutes of my time and maybe $1 total with stamp, all right? I mean, you go to the dollar store, you can find these things all day long. I'm telling you, okay? So I've got $1 in this, right? I send this to Andrew. I'm going to send him one every month for 12 months, right? Right. I'm going to send it to him forever, but once a month, right? He's going to get a card from me, right? Now, 8 of those cards are going to come in. He's going to look at him and say, man, Kent's a nice guy, you know? I mean, you know, but one day this card's going to come in and he's going to have had a crappy day, right? And he's going to open that card up and he's going to read it and he goes, man, I can't believe somebody else is thinking about me today. You know, think of the power of that. That is one of the most powerful things you can, because people don't do this anymore. Now, you know, so it was my birthday this past week, you know. So, you know how many birthday cards I got? My wife got me one. Yeah, my wife and my kids. Right? Yeah. So, and that's because they want to stay in the wheel. Yeah. But nobody else. Right. And now that's amazing to me. Right. So how important is it that we do something, that we send these notes, right? You know, take the time. Now I got 800 people said happy birthday on Facebook. Oh yeah. Yeah. The Facebook thing told you to do that, you know, right? So I keep another little set of cards around, and that set of cards looks like this. And so if y'all don't remember, my last name is Bush. And so there's a bush with a little set of pearls on it, and a bush with a little tie on it, right? And inside it just simply says, the Bushes personally wish you a happy birthday. All right. Now this one I don't put a business card in. Now, I will say that it was designed specifically so they'd remember me, but I don't put a card in it. I don't put a business card. I just wish someone had Buddy and Stacy and I sign them. Actually, the next ones I print, we're already going to have the signature on them, so I can just get them cranked out and, you know, make them look good and send them out so they get their birthday card. Right. So I mean, think about that, right? If you're the only person out there, now I will say probably the insurance guy probably sent me one, but you know, they're so standard, it's unbelievable. He didn't take any time to think about it, you know. But if you're the only one that sends your database a birthday card, how powerful is that? You know, you're the one person to get. I was talking to an agent that kind of enlightened me on this years ago, and you know, because I'm just like you guys, Kent. I've heard all this. You know, make your phone calls, send your report, put your IMBA, you know, okay. How come I'm closing 35 houses and you're closing 90, right? You know, if we're all doing the same thing, you know, why is that? You know, and so that's the question I started asking some of these agents that were really just killing it out there. And I'll never forget this one said to me, said, Kent, she said, I think what makes me different maybe is that I send 800 of these a year. She said she'll get 3 to 5 phone calls a week just saying, you know, you're the only person that sent me a birthday card. Think of the power of that, guys. So why do I say that about the contact piece of our database? All right. So we're going to do that. We're going to send our item of value. We're going to make our phone call. We're going to put the note in, and then we're going to send out the e-report. Okay. Then we're going to do a whole segment on how to do a pop buy, which is the last piece of that. And I'm not going to get into that today and what a pop buy is and how all that works. Well, yeah, actually, I might show you one. So this one's ugly now, but this is my favorite one. This is the one we send out around Christmas time. Okay, these are peeps. Those are those nasty little marshmallow birds, right? Yeah, that will last through the end of the millennium. Yeah, and so then we attach this little card that says, "Have your peeps call my peeps." All right. Yeah. So that's the craziness of a pop by, and we'll do a whole segment on those. All right. So we're gonna send out the item of value. We're gonna make the phone call. We're gonna write the handwritten note. Hopefully, we're gonna send a birthday card. And I will tell you, there's a place, and I'll someday show you how to do it. But you can go into Facebook, pull up all your friends in Facebook, and it'll tell you everybody's birthday that month. Actually, it'll tell you everybody's birthday for the whole year, but it's all in there. So it's easy data to find as long as they put in their birthday. It's simple data to find. All right. So we're gonna send the birthday card out, okay, and then we're gonna send that e-report. So now we've touched these people 5 to 6 times in a month, right? All in different types of communication. Right. Now, none of them are offensive. None of them are going to bother them. None of them are going to make them put their hand on the wallet when they see you do something, right? They're all just information to make that database become a part of who you are. Your ultimate goal is, after you've had conversations with people, is for them to say, when they're talking to somebody and somebody says, man, I really need to know the best auto mechanic in town. And Andrew says, you need to call my buddy Ken. He knows everybody. All right. Why? Because I've communicated with him enough, and something's come up, and I've had my ears open, listening for a chance to be able to do something to help Andrew. Made my phone call. He says, "Yeah, man, it's been a crappy week. My car broke down. We're new in town. I don't know what to do." Hey, you need to just pick the phone up and call my buddy Jeremy out at Rick's Radiator and Muffler. Just tell him I told you to call, and he'll get you fixed up. And he's like, oh, wow, thanks. Somebody I can trust told me to call somebody that he trusts. Right? That's a huge thing, guys. All right. So that's the power of this database is so huge. Right. And as you're building these relationships, and again, I don't care if they came off a sign call, I don't care if they come off the internet. Once you've made contact with them and they understand you're a real estate agent, they're looking for a friend. Right. And they're looking for somebody that, can I trust you? Are you good at your job? And do you care about me? Okay. Yeah, this stuff ain't rocket science. It's pretty simple. Right? The problem with it is we get bored doing it. All right. And we're always out there. We're like the guys that love to go fishing. They're always looking for a lure that's better than the last one they used. Right. Right. I'm telling you, there ain't no better lures out there. There may be things that get them in your database, but once they're in there, the only way to work them is by you doing the work. All right. So we talk, so that's how this works today. We're right at 57 minutes. So I'm going to wrap it up there. And so that's how you stay in contact. Next week, we'll talk about how you care for it. What do we do to care for it? Which I know everybody's like, well, isn't that what we just did? Nah, that was just contact. Once we contact them, then we got to start taking care of them. All right. And then the following week, we'll talk about, once we're caring for them, how do we build that group into a community? There's nothing cooler than about 100 or 150 of your people getting together, and they're going, man, Andrew's got that many clients. That's amazing. It changes their whole perspective of you. Because what you think about it, and I'll get deep into this at one point in time, but think about it. Most of them, the only time they ever met you, you were sitting across the table from them at a Starbucks, or maybe came into your office where there was, 6 or 7 people in the afternoon there. They've never seen you in the environment that you really exist in, which is this database community of hundreds of people, right? They've never seen that. And so it changes their whole perspective of who you are and who you are as a business person once they get to see that. So it's one of my favorite topics to talk about. And so hopefully that's going to help you guys. I try to keep it simple, because I think simplicity gets us where we need to be. So Andrew, you wrap up for us, buddy?
Yeah. Just a reminder. I don't know if you harped on it, but you've harped on it in the past, is if you're going to send a birthday card, send it before their birthday.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Set a reminder 5 days before.
Yeah. If they get it the day before, the day of their birthday, it's a whole different thing than 4 days after their birthday. Oh yeah, you saw it on Facebook.
Yeah.
It takes a minute to notice that. But guys, hope you get this stuff. Hope you like it. Hope it's interesting. If there's stuff you're wanting to know, let us know. If there's stuff that you're interested in, that you want to know about, we want to make sure it's something that is good for you guys and interesting and good to know. I can't tell you how many times I've seen someone fill out the addendums incorrectly. That's why we wanted to stress those today. But if there's stuff you want to hear, let us know. But with that, appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week.
All right, bye, guys. Have a great week.